Welcome to the first of two videos for Chapter 4. The chapter is titled Creating and Using Forms and Reports. These are the other two objects that we talked about of the four main objects in Access. We spent a lot of time on tables and queries so far. This chapter just briefly covers forms and reports. We will not be getting into a lot of detail with forms and reports. But we need to know a little bit about them. So I am in Access here, and I've opened up the student data file A04H1 coffee. That's for the hands-on exercise for this part. I'm not going to go through all of the hands-on exercise, but I'll try to cover the important stuff that I think is that you need to know. I'll cover forms first. A form is an object in Access that is typically set up for a user to allow them to update the data in a database. They may need to change, add records, delete records, change data in a table, and you really don't want them doing that in datasheet view of a table like we've done here in the past. For instance, this customer table, if I double click it, it opens up the table in datasheet view, and we could edit here, but this is not how you want your users to edit the data. There's too much possibility for error here, too many places they could get into trouble here. So what we want to do is create a table, or actually a form, for them to edit the data that's in the customer table. So to create a form, you come up and click the Create tab here in Access, and come over in the ribbon area and just click on Form. There's other ways to create a form. This is one of the easiest. As you can see, you have a form already. The big difference here, as opposed to datasheet view of a table, is we're looking at just one record at a time here, as opposed to all the records, or as many as will fit on the screen. You can navigate the records with the navigation bar down at the bottom. Go to the next record, the last record, previous record, and first record. So you can navigate around. You can also find certain records if you happen to have thousands of records in a table. There's some nice search features, and a lot of nice ways to find data. Okay, let me talk about this form a little bit. You can see it made for every field in the table, there's a little text box here for us to be able to enter changes that we need to make to this data. Right now I'm in what's called layout view of a form. We can tell that because certain things are highlighted. We got this little dotted area around there. This is so that the programmer can make some basic layout changes. For instance, looks like there's a lot of wasted space out here. If you move your cursor over to the right, hold it down and drag it, you can modify the amount of space in some of these, allowed for some of these fields. Also, if you scroll down a little bit here, you'll see some, not only just customer information, but there's some order information down here. Well, if you think about it, the customers and the orders table has a one-to-many relationship. We could look at that in the relationship window by clicking on Database Tools, Relationship, and I see, customers can have many orders. So what Access did was automatically, when it created this particular form, it created what's called a subform for that one-to-many relationship. So you can see that this customer looks like they have 3 orders in the database here. So this is called a subform. Now sometimes you don't want that subform there. Like I said, Access just put it there automatically. If you don't want it, you can click on it. It'll be highlighted here in layout view, and you can hit the delete. And you can get rid of, let me try to do that again here. actually, I think maybe I have to do that in design view. Let me go to design view for this. Remember I said I was in layout view. To get to design view, you come over to the view button here, click design view. Okay, here's this subform. Now I hit the delete key and it's gone. I can go back to layout view and I notice that it is gone now. So you can get rid of those subforms if you want to, but I just wanted to let you know that Access created it automatically because there was a one-to-many relationship between customers and orders. Okay, so that's your basic form. Notice it just called the form customers, same name as the table. Depending on the naming convention you want to use, you could call this customer form, whatever you wanted to. Just try to be somewhat descriptive. I'm going to close this form now, save the changes, and I'll just leave it. Well, I'll change the name to customer form. Okay, you can create a form, and when I say the word over a table, I mean you're getting the data from a specific table. You can also create a form over a query. So for instance, if I highlighted the query over here in my navigation pane, clicked on create and form, I have a form now for that query. Remember, a query gets its data from tables, so it's kind of the same as editing data in a table, but you're only doing it through this query. You may want to do that if you have some criteria to set up for only certain records, or if you want to do certain sorting, or if you want to get data from multiple tables on a single form, things like that. Okay, so I wanted to let you know that. So I won't save that one. There's a lot of different types of tables that you can create. The one I created first by just clicking on whatever table, let's do a product table one, create. If you just do that, you'll get a basic form. There's some other specialty type forms. If you go through this more forms pull down list, you can see there's a multiple items, data sheet, split form, modal, a lot of different types of forms. The hands-on exercise on pages 238 through about 244 have you do some of those types of forms, and so I suggest you do those just to see what they look like. The last thing I want to talk about with forms is the different views and sections of a form. Let me open up my customer form again. I'm just going to double click on it. And the three main sections are the header section, which is up here at the top. Then you got your detail section, which is in the middle here where all the data would show up. And then on the bottom, you really can't see it much here on this particular form, but there's a footer, a form footer section. If I go to design view, you can see these sections a little clearer. One way to go to design view would be to right click on the tab here, go to design view, or you could go to the home tab, the view button, go to design view that way. Here you can see the different sections. There's the header section up here where you usually have your title. You can put other things in there if you would like to. Here's the detail section, like I said, where the main part of the data is. And here's the footer section at the bottom. The footer section, of course, would be show up at the bottom of the form. In design view, you can do a lot of detailed work. You could move these fields around, put them on the screen, different areas if you would like to. That's the kind of thing. You don't really need to know that at this point in time, so we don't really do that in this class anymore. To make these sections bigger, here I'll just show you. You can move your cursor to the bottom of the section, hold it down. You can make your header section bigger. You can make your footer section bigger. Put things in there. The hands-on section, the hands-on part of the chapter will have you do that. So I suggest to practice some of that too. the second hands-on section for the forms are page 251 through 256. So that's a good place to work on some of the different sections of the form. So there's three main sections: form header, detail, and form footer. There's also three views of a form. Here's the design view, which is where you would do some serious design work to make your form look exactly the way you want it. There's layout view, where you can do some basic layout changes. And then there's form view, which is basically what you would give the end user. This is where they would do their data updates. Okay, so remember, do the hands-on exercises, the first two in chapter 4 for forms, and you'll have a good feel for forms by that time. The next video will cover reports. That will be the second for this chapter.